folks, welcome to Software Testing Hacks. In this video, we will discuss about V model. V model is actually we can call it as the advanced model of waterfall model. Whatever the drawbacks was there in waterfall model has been overcome in this V model. So verification and validation model or is also known as V model. Okay, let's get started. Before that, if you have not watched the waterfall model, please do watch it and so that it will be easy to understand V model. Started. V model is also known as verification and validation model. So basically, verification and validation is nothing but it is a process where the documentation, in case of verification, a documentation will be reviewed. Okay, so to verify that whether we are building the right product is called verification. And validation is nothing but whether we are making sure that whatever the product that we have built is right or not. So I have explained in detail in the verification and validation model, which is part 7 of the series. Please to watch it and to understand what is verification and validation clearly. So, is based on the association of testing phases for corresponding development stage. What happens in V model is the structure or the V model exactly looks in a V shape because for each of the development phase there will be a testing phase associated to it. Okay, so that is the reason it structure almost looks in a V shape. So that is the reason you can also call it as a V model. So wherein parallelly the testing as well as the development will work. The next phase starts only after completion of the previous phase. That is, for each development activity, there is a testing activity corresponding to it. So that's what we discussed. So only after the completion of the previous phase, the next phase will be taken up. And for the next step also, it involves development as well as testing in parallel. Okay, there will be a corresponding testing associated. So let's understand it clearly. So this is how verification and validation model works or V model looks. Okay. Requirement analysis. If you see the requirement analysis, okay, with the requirement analysis, what we do is here we will verify whether it is an acceptance testing which will be performed. So in between acceptance test design will be performed. So what happens is in waterfall model, after the requirement freeze is done, we were directly going to the design phase. In case if there is any defect or something which is not caught, it was getting flowed to the design phase also. Overcome that issue, here parallelly we are carrying out the testing also. Once the requirement analysis is done, the corresponding testing, which is the acceptance testing, will be performed to make sure that if there are any issues that will be caught in the testing phase. Okay. So system design. After the requirement analysis is done and then the acceptance testing is done, so then the requirement is ready now. Next, it flows to the system design phase. Okay, in the system design phase, you know that in system design, there will be different types of system design. If it considering the different system, if it involves any different systems, okay, if it requires any integration with a different system or something, that time the system design is important. So for that, a system testing will be performed corresponding to the system design. Okay. And after system design is done and then the system testing is done, architecture level design will be done. So in architecture level design, integration testing will be performed where the architectural designing will be done. How actually the architecture looks, all that will be designed. So we have discussed about this designing phase in the SDLC model as well as in waterfall model. So you can go and watch exactly what is architectural design. Okay. And in this, at this point of time, integration testing will be performed. So meanwhile, we will write the integration test design. Okay. And the next step is the module design. So module is a separate one unit. Okay, module is known as, you can call it as a one separate unit. Say for example, you are designing a login page. So it is a different module. One module it is. Okay, if you want to navigate to the next page, it is a different module. So in the same wise, um, module designing will be done. Likewise, each page will be designed. Okay, and after the module designing is done, unit testing will be performed. So at that time, unit test design will be done. With the help of this unit test design, unit testing is performed basically. Okay. And finally, after everything is done, coding will be done. So coding in the sense, whatever the integration with the APIs, okay, or else how the data will be um, stored in the database and how it will be fetched in the database as part of that. So we will perform all the UI, or else even the backend development also comes under this coding phase. Okay. So basically this is how the overall V model looks. And if you notice, the structure absolutely looks in a V manner. So that is the reason this is called as V model, or verification will go one side. So this is where you can call verification, and then the validation will go another side. So it is combinedly known as V model. Okay. Fine. Let's talk about some of the advantages and disadvantages of V model. V model is used for small projects where project requirements are clear. So here also, even though parallelly we perform the testing, there are chances of, if we have some requirement which we want to change it later, it is difficult. So only for small projects where the requirements are clear, then only we will be performing this. We will go with this process, V model. Simple and easy to understand and use. So as we noticed, it is very simple to understand and it is easy to implement also. So that is the reason it is very simple and easy to understand and use it. Basically, we perform verification and validation parallelly, so that helps for the error free, or else the good product, good quality product we can expect over this type of model. The V model provides clear link between requirements and the final product. So making it easier trace and manage changes of to the software. If there is any slight changes involved, then it is easier. Or else after the testing is done, if there is any changes required, then we can incorporate it. Okay. V model helps to improve communication between the customer and the development team. So there will be a proper communication between the customer as well as with the development team. So that helps overall. This model is better suitable for projects, basically, is what we would say. Going ahead with the disadvantage, it is high risk and uncertainty. You may notice that there is a high risk involved and we cannot expect the proper results. 100% result we cannot expect. Why? Because I'm telling you, why? Because if in case if there is any changes is required in the product, suppose we are building a one application, okay, so in that we are, while making that requirement, some of, there are chances of some of the things or the requirement getting missed. Okay, during that time it is of high risk. Okay, high risk, and then we cannot expect a 100% certain result. It is not good for complex projects. Okay, it is for small projects or simple projects, not for good for suitable for complex projects. It's not suitable for projects where requirements are not clear and contains high risk of changing. Okay, as we discussed, this project is not at all suitable for the when the requirements are not clear and contains high risks of changing. If the requirement frequently changes, then it is difficult to manage such. This model does not support iteration of phases. Okay, so it will not help us, it will not support actually iteration of phases, which means that suppose once I perform the requirement analysis, designing, and then coding, everything is done now, it will not, we will not be able to traverse through again, okay, the same thing. So it will not help us to iterate through the next phases again and again. If I want to again perform a requirement analysis and then designing and then coding, that process, it will not help us. We will get the clarity on it while we learn agile model or even the iteration model or iterative model is there. So while we get to that model, then it will be very much easily understandable. Why? Because in that particular model, we will divide the requirement into smaller chunks and then we will iterate through it multiple times. So that's how it is helpful. But here we cannot do that. The V model can be time consuming as it requires lot of documentation and testing. Here the main concentration would be on the documentation and testing. So parallelly, the development and then the testing happens parallel, right? So the it is time consuming basically, okay, and it requires a lot of documentation, okay. Each phases requires little documentation, right? Each phase will go through some documentation, and then once the documentation is done, verifying it and then testing it. So that is kind of time consuming, right? So overall, we know that V model is a verification and validation model where the development and the testing goes in parallel. And also after the completion of the previous step, the next step or the next phase will start. Okay. And then we also went through some of the advantages and disadvantages of um V model. So hope you have understood about V model. If you have liked this video, please do like it, share it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.